And a very good Monday evening. Welcome into Time Out here on TVNB. Jim Hennessy flying solo for the time being anyway. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Great show lined up for you. St. John Flames continue to sputter at home. We had a chance to talk to the Chief Operating Officer of the St. John Flames, Stu McDonald, over the weekend. And as well, should McHugh and Ward be allowed to play Junior B hockey in Sussex? All that and a whole lot more is coming up. So no flipping around. Stay right there. And a good Monday evening. Welcome into Time Out here on TVNB. Certainly hope that your work week is getting off to a good start. Getting a little cold out there. It looks like Old Man Winter has finally caught up to us. Another splendid weekend except for the rain, but the temperatures were outstanding. We certainly hope you enjoyed it. And thank you for sticking around for the next 30 minutes. A couple of topics we're going to touch on, of course, as we do per normal this time of the year. The St. John Flames lead off our week as we look at Saturday night when the St. John Flames played host to the Quebec Citadels. 4,300 on hand at Harbour Station. They were very happy at the size of the crowd. Of course, Quebec being the former Fredericton Canadians, you can always count on a good tussle or two. But it was a fairly quiet night. Not too many fisticuffs. Rick Vive and Michel Therrien, of course, do not get along, but they were fairly quiet behind the bench as well. So Quebec wins 4-2 and extended their lead in the Atlantic Division over the St. John Flames to 8 points. But that all changed on Sunday night as Quebec skated over onto the Rock to take on the St. John's Maple Leafs. They beat them 2-0. So the Citadel's lead atop the Atlantic Division now is 10 points over the St. John Flames. We go back to Saturday night at Harbour Station. 4,300 on hand to check out the Flames and the Citadels. We're going to check them out right now. Aaron Kennedy and Steve Ryan have the call high atop Harbour Station.
Skating after it is Fata down the right wing. Fata, backhand save, rebound, scores! 1-0 St. John on a great individual effort by Rico Fata. His 8th of the season. Good pass by Lee Sorokin. Ward, a former first-round pick, will bring it through the neutral zone. Tries to go wide around Thompson. Down the right side, in front. They score! Andre Bashkarov redirects the feed from Jason Ward. Bashkarov with his 8th of the season, and the game is tied at 1. 21-9 are the shots in favor of St. John, and in this case, the shots are indicative of the play. McCleary down the right side, in front, they score! Bashkarov on the redirection with his second goal of the game, and Quebec has a 2-1 lead. Staples has it at the left point inside the Quebec line, moving it in behind the goal. Brett McLean tries to get loose from Bocage. McLean stops sharply in the corner. Now it's Bejan lending a hand, trying to cycle it back from McLean in behind the net. McLean steps in front, scores! These guys need a face cloth at the end of the game because their noses are so dirty after the work down low. Bejan McLean with another tremendous effort, and it's McLean with his 3rd of the season. The game's tied at 2. Back the other way, DeLille sends it ahead for Sevigny. Over the line, he drops it for Razza, moving in. Sevigny scores! Great three-way passing play, and Pierre Sevigny finishes it off. He'd gone 5 games without a point, but he's got his 6th goal of the season here, and the Citadels have a 3-2 lead. Can't get it out of the zone. DeLille hustles after the loose puck in the left corner. In front, Stepan Waugh, they score! Pierre Sevigny with his 2nd goal of the game, and Quebec has a 4-2 lead, and Rocky Thompson knows he's to blame for that one.
And once again, the final from Harbour Station, Quebec Citadels 4, St. John Flames 2 on Saturday night. If you were down at the game, I don't have to tell you that it was a pretty lackluster game. Not too much going on in between the boards. Brett McLean, just simply outstanding of late, has 3 goals in his last 2 games, and he's winning those little battles. He's getting into the corner and digging, trying to work and get that puck freed out to get it centered. Rico Fata, what more can you say about this kid? What an outstanding set of wheels. You saw that first goal he scored. Second effort. Boys, I heard Don Cherry's voice ringing in my head as soon as I saw him score that goal. he just, second effort, didn't give up on it. Most of them, when they skate in, they'll take that initial shot, head for the boards, and circle back around to get to center ice to get back and play on the D. Didn't do that. He kept his head up and just kept going in. And I mean, the wheels on this kid. He has certainly got a bright future with the Calgary organization. There's no question about that. Can't go without mentioning Rocky Thompson. He was -3 on the night playing the blue line. I don't understand why he was on the blue line playing the defense, but Rocky just simply looked like a fish out of water playing on the blue line Saturday night. Like we said, he was a -3 for the evening. The third goal that the Citadels did score, you heard Aaron Kennedy say it was definitely Rocky Thompson's fault. He was way out of position on that one. So Rocky playing the blue line, I don't understand why. He's a forward by nature. Rick Fives got him stuck on the blue line. I don't understand. And we'll have to wait and see if Rocky will be playing on the blue line. Of course, the next action for the Flames is coming up Tuesday night as they take on the St. John's Maple Leafs over on the Rocks. So we'll look with great anticipation as to see how the Flames do over against the St. John's Maple Leafs. Of course, like we mentioned off the top, the Flames are now 10 points behind the Quebec Citadels. They've still got a few games in hand, but St. John has got to start sending a message before this Christmas break that they want to get into the lead and keep it relatively close with the Quebec Citadels. Just an amazing job Quebec continues to do, seeing that all the call-ups they've had with Montreal just decimated up in the parent club. Brian Savage out, Saku Koivu out, injuries, and they keep calling down to the farm club. What a system Quebec does have in place. And if you had to vote for Coach of the Year, I know the Flames fans won't like to hear this, but I got to give my thumbs up to Michel Therrien and Jerry Fleming, and just an outstanding job they're doing with the Citadels. Like we said, now lead the Atlantic Division by 10 points. We talked about Rico Fata just a couple of minutes ago, and we had a chance to talk to Chief Operating Officer of the St. John Flames. Rico Fata is one of the subjects we touched on. It was the second intermission of the game on Saturday night at Harbour Station. Stu McDonald dropped by, and here's what he had to say.
The play 3-2. Glad to be joined by Chief Operating Officer of the St. John Flames, Stu McDonald. Stu, thanks for coming by.
Pleasure to be here.
Give us your overview of the first 40 minutes.
Well, it's been an exciting game, actually, that I sort of wasn't sure what to expect after. It's the first time we've really seen him in other than the preseason game since the ugly playoff series last year for us. And I thought the guys came out pretty hard. I know it was a tough week, the 2 games on the road where we had some success down in New England and then a long bus trip home. So, you know, sometimes the bus legs can get you, but both teams seem to be in pretty good shape starting the game.
A little bit of a slow start to the game. Both teams kind of feeling each other out. Were you expecting more rough stuff when this first time Quebec's been here? Like you said, the now defunct Fredericton Canadians. A lot of people on hand tonight, about 4,400. Were you expecting a little more rough stuff?
Well, I think the first couple games in Quebec sort of led to that, to people's expectations, but that always seems to be the way. The more it's discussed, the less there seems to be during the games. And I think, you know, both teams now being so close to each other, and with St. John having a few games in hand on the Citadel, that, you know, every point, and even in this early in the season, every point is critical. And I think obviously both coaches saying, you know, 2 points are the critical thing for us. Let's not have any goofy stuff out there. Make sure we can get out of here with the win, and we'll worry about other things later on.
That was going to be my next question. I mean, how important is this game for you? I mean, seeing that you're 6 points behind Quebec, 4 games in hand, but you want to be sending a message out to this team that don't get too comfortable in that first place position. We're coming at you.
Well, I think that's probably the feeling right through the whole Atlantic Division. I think a lot of people going into this season looked at Quebec and with the signings they had in the offseason and said, you know, they're the cream of the crop. And I think the other 3 clubs in the division have looked and said, you know, we want to be competitive with them all the way through, but especially the first half of the season, it's important to stay within reach of them. And I think, you know, speaking for Rick, that he's got to be pretty happy with our play to date. And you'd like to, you know, we're on a bit of a roll now, and I think that's probably a bigger key to keep that rolling.
Taking the team on the road for practices the past couple of weeks, how's that been?
It's been great. We've been out to St. Andrews for our first stop. We're coming up into St. Stephen, and about another week down the road with a stop after that in Blacks Harbour, Sussex, and Hampton. Players had a great time in St. Andrews. We had a pretty good crowd out there, and I think we'll see that continue to build. And really, our job is to get out there and make the team as accessible as possible. And we sometimes do a good job of that right around St. John, but tend to maybe not make the effort to get out past that. And so we've gone about it a little bit different way this year, and it's the initial response has been terrific.
Of course, it was big news when the season got started. The Flames season ticket numbers were down. Can you give us any update on where the number is right now, and how impressed are you so far with all the home games you played?
Well, I think the biggest thing for us is, you know, we picked up a little bit. You know, late August we were sitting about 1,500 season tickets, which is a huge concern, and last year we had a little over 22 and a half. We ended up a little over 1,800, and we're still adding weekly to that on little dribs and drabs. So from that standpoint, we're just still significantly below where we'd like to be and probably where we need to be long term. But the positive sign this year for us has been our walk-up crowds have been up substantially, and our attendance actually up over this time last year after the same number of home games. So there's a real positive sign there. You look at a day like today, we had a little bit of drizzle though, and that might keep a few people home.
Sure.
Where if you've got that season ticket base, that allows you to ensure that those people are going to be out. But I would say through the first month or two of the season, that we're pretty satisfied. A lot of work to do yet, and that's always keeps lending itself to season tickets and partial plans. How do you keep building those?
Absolutely. Let's jump up to Calgary for a second. Of course, they're on a bit of a roll themselves after a slow start out of the gate. Any update on Martin St. Louis? How many lines has he been playing on? Have they been jumping him up from the fourth to the second? And has he had an opportunity to get a lot of ice time up there?
I talked to our general manager, Nick Polano, today, who's the head of player personnel for Calgary, and he got a chance to watch on television, to watch the game a couple nights ago. Martin played 15 minutes in that game. Said he played very well, had a couple of great chances. It was robbed on one play, but I think they're very happy with his play. I think we'd all like to see him, pick up a point or two just to keep it rolling. But I mean, he truly is one of those guys, and I think Nat's in the same boat where, no one, selfishly, none of us like to lose as fans, like to lose our players of the big team, and even though that's why we're here. But the sentiment around Harbor Station has really been, everyone is so happy for both guys to get another chance to show what they can do because they've done so much for this club. And I think everyone just, pulling for both Nat and for Martin to get a chance to put a few points on the board and continue to earn their position up there.
No question. How tough has it been on this team with Calgary, like we said, getting that slow start out of the gate? Call-ups, call back down, back and forth to start off the season. It's got to throw the chemistry off a little bit, but Rick Vives handled it very well. Is there any concern that if Calgary doesn't make the playoffs this year, that it's going to be another situation where if the Flames end up in a pretty good spot to make a good Calder Cup run, are they going to get all the players called up if Calgary does make a playoff run this year?
Well, I think that's, no matter where you are in the American Hockey League, that's always a possibility. We are here to develop talent and support our parent club in the NHL, and they're obviously all their ultimate goal is go as far as they can in the playoffs. But I think realistically this year we're really fortunate in the player moves that Calgary made. The young kids they've got coming up through the draft that have joined our club this year, they were so deep in talent to start the season that we're able to lose a Nat and a Martin. And, although we've definitely missed them in the room, it hasn't affected us maybe as dramatically as it would a year ago when we had a much younger team. And I think and Quebec's much in the same boat. The injuries Montreal's had with the call-ups they've taken from the Citadels, Quebec, again, has been deep enough that it's allowed them to stay competitive. And I think as long as we can remain competitive, we know, we've got a good base of talent here, and our young kids are going to continue to get better. I think as long as we've got the core that we've got now would allow that development to continue to take place.
Got to be happy seeing a guy like Rico Fata out there. Big question mark around him. Great set of wheels, no doubt about that. Big question mark was his puck sense, where the puck was and whether or not he could stay with it. Seems like if you watch the games, tonight's game, you've seen the first 40 minutes this guy's played. You got to be happy with the progress that he's making over the past couple of weeks.
I think Calgary's really pleased with a lot of their young prospects, and I think that's part of their issue right now is they're maybe missing, a first-line center that can put the puck in the net in Calgary, but second, third, fourth line, and probably here fifth and sixth line, they match up pretty well to almost anyone in the NHL. And looking at Rico and Daniel Tkachuk, they've got a great future ahead of them. It's just a matter of hanging on to make sure that they can develop. I think they're very happy with their progress to date. I know Rick is, and I think we're just fortunate to be able to have them here during hopefully most of the course of this season.
Absolutely. Flames are back on the ice. Quebec's coming back on the ice too. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we thank Stu McDonald for taking the time out there on Saturday night's game in the second intermission to stop by and chat just relatively about how the Flames are doing so far in almost the first half of the season. And, of course, we discussed Rico Fata. If you've been to the Flames games this year or listened to Aaron Kennedy do the play-by-play, you just know that this guy is going to be a rising superstar. Calgary could certainly use him up top after getting thumped on Saturday night by Colorado, 7-1 at the Pepsi Center. And Forsberg coming back to the Colorado lineup. He had 5 points on the night. Man, if you pick this guy in the pool, you are sitting pretty for the second half of the NHL season. Like we mentioned earlier, the St. John Flames will hit the road tomorrow night. They are over on the Rock to battle the St. John's Maple Leafs. Funny about Saturday's game, of course, it was being billed as a real tough matchup. The now defunct Fredericton Canadiens, Quebec Citadels, rolled back into town first time during the regular season, and it was being billed as a real tough and rough and ready to rumble to go. hockey game, but didn't turn out that way. No fisticuffs were thrown. Like we said, Brent McLean had a great game. Rocky Thompson, not so great. Jean-Sébastien Giguère looked a little shaky at times, to say the least. Flames outshot Quebec in the first period alone, 15-4, and the final tally after 60 minutes was St. John Flames 41 shots on goal, and the St. John Flames, or the Quebec Citadels, I should say, only had 21. So to lose a game like that, Rick Five, to say the least, was not pleased, but hopefully the boys can turn things around over on the Rock tomorrow night. And, of course, we'll have the results from that game next Monday right here on Time Out here on TVNB. Coming up in the second half, we're going to talk some Junior B hockey, and our basketball analyst here on TVNB, Terry Ferguson, is going to drop by to chat about some hoops and chat about just what's been going on the past 7 days in the world of sports. As we head into break, some of the scores from the past 7 days around town, some of the scores, and we'll be right back after this.
Catch a glimpse of some of the finest up-and-coming country music with performances and interviews. Settle up for the Wild Wild East. You'll love the ride on Maritime Country, Friday evening at 8 and Saturday night at 10 on TVNB.
And a good Monday evening. Welcome into the second half of Time Out here on TVNB. Jim Hennessy joined by Terry Ferguson in the studio. Nice to have you, Terry.
Thanks, Jim.
Terry, of course, you'll remember from last season, if it's got to do with hoops, he's the man in the paint covering all the basketball action in and around town and around the province pretty much. We'll get to some basketball action just shortly.
Sure.
There's something else that's close to your heart that I know you'll like to jump on the conversation wagon and talk about. Last week at Common Council, it was discussed or brought up as a motion as to whether or not more money should be pumped into Memorial Field for some upgrading, because the Women's Fastball Championships is coming here next summer. And here's how some of the conversation broke down within the council chambers last Monday.
Please. Recommendation that council approve the expenditure of $15,483 plus HST from the Community Services 1999 capital budget for the purpose of engaging Schulten's Landscape and Design Limited to supply and install an irrigation system at the baseball field at Memorial Field.
Okay, do I have someone move the motion? Okay, on that question, Councillor Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Worship. I have no problem. I realize time is of the essence, and this is one of those things that if we don't do it now, we may have to wait another year. I know that was explained to me. I do have a slight problem. I'll support the motion. I do have a slight problem because twice in this particular letter, it indicates that with the understanding that the city would make additional improvements to the complex, and part of us doing this is to demonstrate the city was prepared to make improvements to the field, and I do not recall. And I appreciate, don't get me wrong, I appreciate everything that's being done, and I appreciate, but we've got Simon's Arena, we've got Balfour's, and I don't recall making that type of commitment.
No, it didn't come to council. Through the committee, it was discussed at the committee level, but not at council.
No, but it doesn't indicate it just says make additional improvements, and I don't know what type of money or whether somebody misled somebody or what, but just maybe for the future we could get some answers on that, Your Worship.
Okay, I'm not sure where that statement, it didn't come to council. I don't think council made any agreement.
No.
Okay, Councillor Court.
This improvement, I think, will cut down on some of the dust and so on. Maybe the city manager can tell me. One of the problems with complaints we've had over there from the residents in the summertime, dry weather, is a lot of dust going over the fields and so on. Will this alleviate that problem?
City manager?
I understand that this project will help alleviate that problem, but quite honestly, it'll just make it a better baseball field.
Better baseball field, and I think we're looking for some major events to go to that field in the future. This is one of those improvements.
Canadian Senior Women's Fastball is there in the year 2000.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's how it breaks down. We'll try to break it down for you. It's a bit confusing when the Irvings put up the Dave Ring Memorial scoreboard that's over there, and it's just it helps that field so much. It's an electronic scoreboard, and they said that was one of the things that they needed to get Memorial Field back up to speed. You look at a field like Kiwanis Park in Moncton, just love going to ball games there simply because the facility has been upgraded to keep up with the times, where as Memorial Field, don't get me wrong, it's a nice place to see baseball, especially with that Dave Ring Memorial scoreboard up there now, but you would know better than I would, and I know one of the things from just being over there with the media covering ball games, senior and junior, the one complaint you hear from the players is the clubhouse. I've seen the players standing in the dugout getting changed. They're getting changed in the backseat of their car or the van that they came down the highway in. What do you, as someone who's there on a regular basis in the summertime, what's the number one thing that needs to be done over there to bring Memorial Field back up to speed?
I think the clubhouse. I mean, the irrigation with the field will help manicure it, make it look nice and green, and keep the dust down, as they were alluding there. However, the clubhouse will encompass a lot of items. It'll encompass better canteen facilities to make it more fan-friendly. It'll add shower facilities, which are important when you're bringing in these national tournaments, if it's softball or even baseball, as I alluded earlier when speaking to you, Jim, was that there's tournaments that are coming up that they grant these tournaments for 7 years in locations around Canada.
Sure.
So you need these facilities to be able to, tender these bids and have a strong bid so that you have a strong consideration, like Chatham did up in for the Canadian Nationals.
And what a beautiful ballpark they have up there.
Beautiful ballpark, and they're going to fund their senior baseball program this year with the money that they made from this tournament.
Absolutely.
And you alluded to the media aspects of it. I mean, the media is always important with sports. You need the media. It's a way to get it out and broadcast and get the interest and bring the people in, and it needs to be more media friendly. So I think that the clubhouse, in combination with the canteen and better media facilities, are definitely the most key important thing at the ball field.
So it gets back to that old saying, it takes money to make money, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of improvements they do make. And like the mayor had said, the ladies fastball championships are coming next summer, so make plans to get over and see that. The ladies play a fantastic game, and it should be an interesting week of baseball. Still with baseball on the local front, the rumor mill is circulating, and I get from my sources that KV could play host to the Little League Championships next year. Now, there's a lot of factors considered into this. The Druitt Field, if I have that right? Druitt Field, yeah. Just out on the highway there by the or the Dailies, I should say. That is the field of choice. Now, there would have to be some renovations done to that as well before they bring in that kind of a tournament. Still a lot of question marks as to whether or not the Randolph League that plays out there would be willing to give up their field time for, well, let's say a week, maybe 2 weeks' time, trying to get the renovations done. Then when you start the tournament, plus there's still the question mark of sponsors and backers and financial money. It always comes down to money whether or not you get some backers. But you got to think that, I mean, this would just do wonders not only for the Quispam-Sis area, but would do wonders for St. John as well. Because, I mean, when these tournaments roll into town, a lot of people come with them. Parents, uncles, nieces, nephews, whatever the case might be. And we're talking some big money. And once again, it gets back to, takes a little to make a little.
That's right. It all comes right down to the multiplier effect of what an event brings to your city. I mean, the Flames bring money into the city.
Big time.
These tournaments, sure, these people are only going to be around for a week, but that's a week that the hotels are filled and merchants are selling their, selling the meals, or they're down here Christmas, summer vacationing and buying things from local merchants. And it's just a good way, overall tourism-wise. I mean, it becomes, like you said, a multiplier effect. If you put money in, as long as it's well spent, which I think into the ball fields it is, especially when you know that there's opportunities to get these national tournaments.
Well, especially like you said, with them booking, I mean, now 5-6 years in advance.
Exactly.
I mean, you've got to get your plug out there and let St. John be known. It was the same thing when Harbor Station was built. It's the home of the Flames, and that's primarily what it was built for, but I mean, let's not kid each other. I mean, if you've got a chance to grab, like when Aerosmith came into town, the first show to open up the station, I mean, it sold out in 20 minutes. I mean, if you've got an opportunity to gain on something that's already gaining, then, I mean, obviously the question is, or the answer is yes, absolutely, let's roll it into town.
Just a real quick note is Bernie Desmond. I really support Bernie and his views in that. He's the ringleader of the local people that have been on committees to try to bring a better facility to St. John for baseball. So I just encourage Bernie to keep working at it. He's doing a terrific job.
Well, we look forward to seeing what happens down the road, and of course we'll keep you posted on whether or not that Quispam-Sis thing comes through with them and the Little League Championships. So keep her tuned right here for what's going on around town on the baseball scene. Flip over to hockey locally, Junior B hockey. There's been a hotbed of conversation over the past week or the past couple of weeks. I've got to look at my sheet here because it breaks down into a real story. Brad McHugh and Steve Ward have been told they will not be playing Junior B hockey this season. Now, this confusing story gets underway last year when Ward and McHugh played for the Thomas Construction St. John entry in the Junior B League, and they signed playing cards with the St. John squad. Merle Stewart, who is the coach of the Sussex team, Sussex Western Stars, who are new to the league this year, was told by league officials one of the stipulations when he was voted into the league, he was not to touch any of St. John's players. Bob Deep, chairman of the Junior Hockey Commission, says, and I quote, "It wouldn't matter if the Supreme Court of Canada instructed them to be allowed to play for Sussex." Now, an appeal has been filed by these two players. Deep adds that there is not a judge in this country that can dictate where they can play, and it won't be Sussex, end quote. Now, this basically gets down to you've got two gentlemen who want to play hockey, don't want to play with St. John, would like to move up the highway and play with Sussex, but a contract, so to speak, has been signed. When you sign that playing card that says you're going to play with this team, and the playing card expires in February, just quickly, give me your view of this whole mess. And it's very complicated.
Myself, short and sweet. The rules are in place. They're there for this year. Mm-hmm. If they want to revisit that in the off season, because it is a touchy subject, and there is two kids that want to play hockey, don't get me wrong, I feel bad. These kids hopefully should be playing somewhere. But rules are rules, and you just can't break them in the middle of a season. So perhaps they should revisit it in the off-season and adjust the practices within the Junior B League, and hopefully these situations won't occur again in the future.
So this is a situation where, in my opinion, and being very humble, that, if you're a hockey player and you really want to play, then, hey, suit up, boys. You got to strap on the gear. You might not like the situation that you're stuck in, but there's a lot of people out there that are in the same boat, so right. Maybe they might have a change of heart. It's going to be interesting to see how that all comes out in the wash as well. 30 minutes is up, totally out of time. We're going to have you back because we want to find out how the high school basketball scene and the university basketball scene, because there was a couple of players last year that moved up to the university level, so we want to find out. You come back and join us?
Definitely will.
Excellent. Terry, thank you very much, and thank you very much for tuning in. Certainly hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Let's hope it doesn't snow, and we'll talk to you again next Monday at 7 o'clock right here on TVMB.